Hello and welcome to another Downtown Talks. This episode, we're sitting down with John Shetler. He's Vice President of Global Real Estate and Facilities with Amazon. Before we get to the conversation, I'd like to thank our sponsors of Downtown Talks. They are Amazon, Heritage Bank, Kaiser Permanente, Puget Sound Energy, and Vulcan Real Estate. Well, let's begin. John, thanks for joining us today on this conversation.
You bet, Patrick. It's great to be here with you today.
Well, we're excited you're growing and expanding in downtown Bellevue. And I want to just start out as Amazon has grown over the last 20 years during your tenure. How would you define your approach to building office space?
That's a big question, and it's an evolving answer, actually, because the only constant in life is change. And certainly the pandemic of the past year plus has made us have to rethink and how we work together as teams and be able to still come together so that we can work on behalf of our customers. But when we think about downtown, first of all, we are so excited to be growing in Bellevue. Bellevue is a great city. It has so many attributes, and it's a world-class city. It has many amenities, and it has first-class talent. And so when we think about where we want to locate, we always think about talent and where we can recruit from. So that is one thing, and Bellevue fits the bill perfectly for us there. And then we think about how we as a company are going to be able to engage in the community. That is super important for us. We want our employees to be able to engage with the community and get involved, and so that we stitch ourselves basically into the fabric of the community.
Yeah, so specifically as you look at the portfolio expanding here in Bellevue, are there certain design cues that you're following through with in order to make that experience for both employees and the public that much more attractive?
Well, we've centered ourselves right smack dab in the heart of downtown Bellevue. Bellevue 600 is our first owned property and our first opportunity to develop in downtown Bellevue. We're super excited about that. If you think about where Bellevue 600 is located, it is located right at the epicenter, right next to the transit station, and also adjacent to where Link Light Rail will open up. And as we think about this major super block that we had the opportunity to develop, we really studied that super hard to think about what's the right mix. And we realized that the porosity of the space, how not only our employees, but the public will pass through the space, we've given it a tremendous amount of thought. And we've worked with the BDA as well as the city to make sure that we get that right, because with the Grand Connection that is coming there, I mean, it could not be in a better location.
Yeah, so what would you say would be different about the approach today that Amazon would take toward developing a project versus 10, 15 years ago?
Actually, there's many of the threads that are common, what we had 10 years ago, because we're really thinking about stitching ourselves into the fabric. So that remains true, whether we're doing it in Bellevue or in Northern Virginia, where HQ2 is, and what we've done in Seattle as well. So we've learned from those cues about how our employees can come together, how Amazon can come into the community and activate and become involved in the community, number one. As we think about buildings and the type of buildings that we build, we want them to be super functional. Amazon's a frugal company, so we don't spend money really on flashy buildings, but we spend money in areas where it really makes sense. Bellevue 600, and with our climate pledge, is giving us the opportunity to really think about a design that makes sense from a LEED perspective. So the buildings will be LEED Gold. We've got started construction already. The old garage has come down, so the tall tower starts first, and then we're in for design review on the smaller tower. But how those buildings come together, not only with the porosity of being able to come into the plaza areas and have them sunlit, and I mean, Northwest plantings and Northwest natives with over 40 different species that will be there, the retail that will be along 6th Avenue, and how that retail will spill out, and all of the seating opportunities and the restaurants and the landscaping and the trees. It's really going to be an amazing spot for people to enjoy, not only our employees, but also the general public.
Yeah, so as you've built in other areas, specifically in downtown Seattle and South Lake Union, what are some of those, if you were to highlight a few of the key lessons from those projects that are going to apply in Bellevue, what would you name as the key features that you think are going to spill over and benefit our community?
One thing that Jeff Bezos asked me to do when we started building in Seattle, he asked me to read a book, and it's by Stuart Brand, and it's called How Buildings Learn. Buildings themselves, the four walls, if you will, of construction, often those walls are fixed and don't change much, but what happens on the inside of the space and the way that you use the space changes a lot over time. And so we try to future-proof as much as we can to make it very, very agile. And a lot of teams right now are going to more of an agile environment. They're still coming into the office 4 or 5 days a week, but it's the way they use the space inside where they are actually collaborating more with teams. They're in smaller group meetings, and they may spend less time at a fixed desk. It used to be that we would assign a seat to every individual day one, and then we would get these requests for more office space. And I would go tour the offices and I would see that there's nobody sitting around. Where are all these people? Well, they were here, they were in the buildings, but they were using the buildings differently. So we started working with teams to understand how they work and started making modifications. But because of the future-proofing that we've done, we're able to make those changes rapidly, and it's actually very cost-effective. So we've learned from the first buildings that we opened in 2010 to here we are today, building buildings that are still, the four walls are very functional and they work for us, but what we do on the inside has changed. We also go back and make modifications to the legacy buildings to make sure that we have parity across our entire global portfolio, to make sure that nobody feels like that group is sitting in a better building than this group over here. So my team's very busy.
Tell us a little bit more about Amazon's relationship to the community. Maybe touch on both physically with the community around the buildings, including the residential portion, the businesses that are serving the employee population, but also the other relationships that are important to Amazon.
Sure. So these are long-term investments. These buildings are going to take several years to build, and we're going to be here a long time. And how we integrate ourselves, not only the company, but our employees into the community is super important to us. So we think about the retail, and we think about the spaces that people will be able to come and enjoy, not just Amazon employees, but also the community at large. And we welcome them in, and we'll be having concerts in the park, and we'll be having outdoor festivals, and we'll have farmers markets and Activate. We're creating public spaces within the building that not only Amazon will use during the day, but they'll be available to the community at night. And that's something that's super important to us. We've done that in Seattle. We're planning on it in Northern Virginia. And so we're doing it here because that is very important to us. We're going to have daycare that's going to be there that will serve a need for the community as well as Amazon employees, because we're surrounded by great retail. We're surrounded by great transit. We're surrounded by great housing, and I can't think of a better place for us to be located.
So thinking of the Grand Connection and the promise that it holds, it's been a project, a grand vision for the city of Bellevue to connect between Eastrail, east of 405, to Meydenbauer Bay, and the projects along this pathway are actually going to be building this Grand Connection. So tell us a little bit more about your perspective on the Grand Connection and how Bellevue 600 specifically is going to connect and help build out this hopefully wonderful public space.
Well, first of all, I'd like to applaud the BDA and their vision, as well as the city, for the Grand Connection in the first place, because to me, that is what placemaking is all about. And it's excellent. And we love being a part of it, and we love helping contribute to that as well. And you think about where Bellevue 600 sits in relation to that. It's sort of almost the portal, if you will, to the Grand Connection. And we are very excited about being a part of that. Working with the city to think about the way the pedestrians will move through the space. The intersections of 110th and 108th, we're actually tabling those, so we're rising the intersections, which will allow the pedestrians to cross more safely, and also slowing cars down, so it's be more pedestrian oriented. How that individuals, when they walk through the space as a result of the Grand Connection and what that brings through, the retail that they're going to experience there, as well as the plaza with it's going to be beautifully landscaped, and it's going to be inviting and welcoming to all that come to the area. There'll be a connection to Cloudview, which is to the north. The porosity throughout the space that allows people to crisscross and to get around in downtown Bellevue, as well as Amazonians to get around to the other buildings that we'll be occupying, is really going to be an amazing enhancement to the city.
Tell us a little bit more about the importance of that retail, that ground level component and the relationship to not only for Amazon employees, but the general public who are coming in to enjoy a transformed downtown environment.
Well, we have a program called Artisan Residence, and we actually, it's been the 4th year that this will be in place. We started with it in Seattle, and we're bringing it here to Bellevue. There'll be 5 artists that will be selected. They'll each receive a $15,000 grant and be able to be on site in space that we provide that will be studio space for them to work, that will be visible from the street level, and a way to engage again with the community. And then the pieces that the artists make will be on display within the spaces in and around that the public will have access to. And it's an ongoing program. And I just think that it's a great way for people to come together, to collaborate and to invent and think of new things. And can you imagine going to work and being able to go grab a coffee and stop by an artist studio and collaborate with them, and then go up and work on a project, or bump into a neighbor or a resident that is living in the downtown Bellevue area, or comes into Bellevue just to enjoy, to see what's going on. We want our buildings to be destinations where people really want to come. They're 18-hour districts. We really care about what happens after the Amazon employees go home, so that they're vibrant and exciting after hours and on weekends. So we're putting a lot of heart and soul into what we're doing here.
A lot of focus on the downtown experience, which is going to, again, be a huge benefit for everyone involved. The Grand Connection itself is going to be this piece of walkable urban infrastructure that employees and residents and visitors will enjoy. Can you share a little bit more about Amazon's commitment to the commute and transportation, and how workers get to and from their work sites, and what goes into that, and how can people view how Amazon's approaching transportation in the future?
Transportation and getting our employees to and from work is a big issue. It's something that we spend a lot of time and a lot of treasure on as well. We give all of our employees ORCA cards, and also our vendors ORCA cards, so that they can use public transportation. Think about Bellevue 600 and where it's located, to the bus terminal that is there, as well as Link Light Rail and the bike trails that are going to be there, along with the Grand Connection. I mean, it's just all stitched right in to an amazing hub right there at Bellevue 600. The buildings themselves will have parking spaces, but there'll be far more people that occupy the buildings than there are spaces for cars. So we make sure that there are opportunities for our employees to use public transportation. And then we also have Amazon Ride, which is a bus service that we provide for our employees. We build bike facilities within our buildings that are right at street grade. You don't have to go down into the garage. You're actually able to bring your bike right in at street grade. There'll be locker facilities for men and women, and we have generally do more in that terms as far as provide more spaces for bikes and lockers for our employees than what is required by code. So we have a very large cycling community, and we want to serve that population because we think it's the right thing to do.
So looking forward, John, after 21 years with the company and then moving forward, what really is most exciting for you? What gets you going every day especially as we've had this remarkable year of dealing with the pandemic. What are you most looking forward to?
I personally am looking forward to the day when we can come back together. My team, and I have a large team, has done remarkable work. None of this happens without all hands on deck. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with some really smart, talented people who are very dedicated to what they do on behalf, because my customer is the Amazon employee. That's who we're serving, so that the Amazon employees can come and serve our external customers. And I really want us to get back. Plus, I miss seeing the dogs in the buildings as well. But I'm also looking forward to Amazon is doing things that no other company on the planet is doing. And I have the opportunity to work with senior leaders throughout the organization who are all very thoughtful, genuine, transparent individuals who call upon us, give us tough challenges to help solve big problems. And we love doing that. I think that's what keeps me motivated every single day. I could never have dreamt 20 years ago that I'd be doing some of the things that we've been challenged to do. And yet we've accomplished some really remarkable things on behalf of the Amazon employees as well as our customers at large. And that's something that keeps me motivated day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you again, John, for joining us today for Downtown Talks and for Amazon's commitment to the city of Bellevue, to downtown Bellevue, and shaping our future in such a significant way.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Downtown Talks. We encourage you to learn more about Bellevue's Grand Connection project, as well as Amazon's Bellevue 600 project at bellevuedowntown.com. Enjoy the rest of your day, Bellevue.